Today we're talking about evaluating powers. So a power is just a shorter way of writing repeated multiplication. So if you are multiplying something by itself multiple times, you can shorten that by writing it as a power. So I apologize, I already wrote this down as I started recording the video, and then I had a tickle in my throat and couldn't stop coughing, so I had to restart. So our example here we have is 3 times 3 times 3. So there are 4 3's being multiplied together. So I would write that as 3 to the power of 4. So the 4 is called the exponent. The 3 is called the base. And together, the 3 and the 4 would be called a power. So anytime we talk about powers, we're talking about a base with an exponent on it. The base is the number that gets multiplied by itself over and over again, and the exponent tells you how many times you're supposed to be multiplying it by itself. So we've got some examples here that say write as a power. So I have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's a lot of 2's. I'm going to count them up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So since they're all being multiplied together, I can shorten this up by saying this is 2 to the power of 6. If I take a look at the next one, I have 6 times 6 times 8 times 6 times 8 times 8 times 8. So a power is how many times you are multiplying a number by itself. These are not all the same number. So what we can do is we can put like bases together. So I can do all of the 6's together, and then I can do all of the 8's together. So if I think about the 6's, there are 3 of them. I've got 1, 2, 3 6's. So this would be, 6 to the power of 3 times, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 8's that are being multiplied together. So times 8 to the power of 4. So you want to do things that are the same number together. Now our last one, I have 5x times 5x times 5x. And there are 2 different ways that I can do this one. So one of them is I can look at it and say, well, we are multiplying 3 sets of 5x's together. So this would be 5x all to the power of 3, right? I am multiplying 5x by itself 3 times. And I put a bracket around it to show that it's not just the x, it's the 5 and the x that are getting repeated. Now there is another way to do it. 5x really just means 5 times x. So I have 5 times x times 5 times x times 5 times x. So we could do the same thing we did here, and I could put the 5's all together. There are 1, 2, 3 of those 5's. So I could say this is 5 to the power of 3. And then there's 1, 2, 3 x's. So times x to the power of 3. I'm going to use a little dot for multiplication. So either one of these is okay. I probably would have written it like this, that it's 5x together to the power of 3, but you could also say that there are 3 5's, so 5 to the 3, and then 3 x's and x to the 3. Now the next part is asking me to evaluate. Anytime you see a question that talks about evaluating, it wants you to work out the actual answer. So 3 to the power of 4, that was the example that we saw at the very beginning. That is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. I'm multiplying it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Now when you're multiplying, you can use brackets, you can use the dot, you can use the little x. It's entirely up to you. I kind of like the bracket. So 3 times 3 is 9, and then times 3 is 27, and then times 3 is 81. If you can't do it in your head, you can do on your calculator 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and it also gives me 81. I'm going to try the next one. This is 10 to the power of 3. That means I am multiplying 10 by itself 3 times, so 10 times 10 times 10. There's 3 of them. And then I'm going to multiply 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is 100, and then times another 10 makes 1,000. There's a fun little trick for multiplying out powers of with a base of 10. So 10 to any power, that power tells you how many zeros come after the 1. So if this was 10 to the power of 7, it would be a 1 with 7 zeros. If this was 10 to the power of 50, it would be a 1 with 50 zeros. So the exponent tells you how many zeros you should have in your number. Now the last one, 4 to the power of 1. The power of 1 means there's just 1 4. So it just equals 4. That's it. We're not multiplying it by anything. It's just 4. So in our next video, if you check it out, we will be looking at how to use a scientific calculator.